Shit's about to.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Unwracked Podcast. I'm Andrew Barry, your host, and I'm joined by my faithful co-host, Sir Kyle Wilkes. And today we have special guest, Nelson Jones. Nelson, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man, it's always fun to have you on. We always have good chemistry. Give us a little bit, like what's been going on in your life? You know, I think people haven't heard from you in a while. Like, what's going on with you?
Sure. So, a couple of things have been happening. The past couple of years, I've been dealing with a full circumferential labrum tear with slap tears. So I've been kind of doing what I can in the gym because my arm doesn't really work super well. And for coaching, for like all of 2024 and even into this year, I took a big step back and like just took way less clients so I could spend more time with my daughters. And I'm really glad I did it, but you know, now it's kind of to the point where, okay, I'm ready to take on some clients again.
Yeah, I think we all go through those cycles where we want, and then we also need to reset our lives. But anyway, you know, I was trying to come up with topics for this week, and like anyone that's just wasting time, I'm on Instagram just scrolling and just dicking around, and I see a post from Kyle of him posing, looking amazing. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, like this is where he was, you know, a couple years ago when he was getting ready for nationals back in 2001. And then I actually read the post, and I'm like, wait a minute, my co-host is like a couple days out from a show. And I honestly, I had to show you guys this this post real quick. Let me get to it. Boom. I mean, yeah, I was just scrolling and I'm like watching this video and I'm like, man, Kyle looks really good. He looked really good a couple years ago. And like I was saying, I realized this is only a few days out. Kyle, what is going on? Give us the update.
Surprise. I've been busy, to say the least, obviously, both professionally and personally, I guess you could say. You know, I really have been dieting on a prep diet since May when Nick competed. That's when I kind of locked in. It got me in a really good rhythm to where I'm waking up every morning doing cardio alongside him. Let me just carry this over and keep the momentum going because, again, momentum is what generally can carry someone to different levels. But back in January, you know, we can talk through the injuries and things like that I've experienced that I think ultimately is where everything stemmed from. But January this year is when I looked at the landscape and what my life has now become. Getting a little older, you know, I'm getting married at the end of the year. Time isn't on my side, I'll put it that way. So if I was going to make the decision to compete, bodybuilding is pretty selfish. And the reality is it's not easy on your partner. You know, clients that I work with, I don't want to not be able to put forth the right effort and energy. And now that I have even higher level clients than I've ever had before, I can't risk not being 100% Kyle when it comes to that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's when I kind of locked in, and here we are, you know, a couple days out, you know, literally 4 days out now.
What show are you doing?
It's called the, I think, NPC Pennsylvania, something like that.
Okay. We'll get the exact date and address so everybody can show up and cheer or heckle him. But, you know, I want to get into why did you stop competing, you know, because I remember your last stage presence. You know, I was there at Nationals in 2021. I had a guy get his pro card behind Carlos. You finished right in the pack there, I think around 10th. But what was your mindset? Like, why have you been off the stage for 4 years? What happened?
Yeah, so very complex. The reality is, physically, I had no choice. I had two substantial injuries that happened thereafter. So, you know, coming off the stage like anyone, I'm motivated to kind of get better, improve. But the reality is that prep was catastrophic in many areas of life. And I'm grateful for the things I went through, though I think not many people should ever want to endure them. It taught me a lot.
But what did happen?
Let's just say there are people in my life that probably shouldn't have been, and that created a lot of stress, we can call it, right? I had just moved, as always, I seemingly move whenever I prep, apparently. But I traveled down to Florida, I quit my corporate job, took an opportunity down there. It didn't pan out to what was kind of presented and what I thought it could have been. So then relocated back home to New Jersey. And again, let's just add tumultuous relationship, things of that nature that really impacted me, to say the least. So it was just a very hectic time, and it wasn't what I foresaw. If you asked me to write down on a piece of paper where I'd be a year or two later, none of it came true.
Gotcha. And then do you feel like that stress led to the quad tear?
I don't. So my first injury was actually right after a high of life, and I think the timing of it taught me a lot, because obviously you don't control something like that when you have that significant injury. And a lot of times people say, oh, they tore a muscle. I didn't tear a muscle. I tore a tendon. Okay, I ruptured a tendon. That shit was cut right off, cut in half. I couldn't function without it. So when the first injury happened in August of 22, that was my quad. And most people would get surgery as soon as possible. I went overseas on vacation for 10 days. Wasn't the best decision, we can say, and that definitely impacted me neurologically, for sure, with the rehab process thereafter. But that was the first setback, and my legs, as anyone that has seen stage pictures of me or my physique back in the day, my legs were my best body part. That was always something that I was very proud of. I trained them fucking hard, was able to grow a nice pair of legs, to say the least, or wheels, as people refer to them as. Yeah. And when that happened, I was just like, that's my best fucking body part. Now it's gone, you know, I can't train. So that recovery itself, you know, I didn't really feel the same, honestly, until very recently. It was definitely like a 2-year thing for sure, until I felt the same. So when people say, oh, they tore a quad, a micro tear or something like that, that's not rupturing. When you have to have something reattached and there's fucking bolts going through and things aren't the same, that's different when you have a 6-month layoff, no matter what. Right after that, as that was quote unquote healing, okay, with 12 months later, I then rupture my tricep. So now it's just like, what the fuck? My upper body already sucked. Now I've gone backwards. Now I have to rehab to get back to where I was. Now I have to focus on my lower half coming back to where it was, and my upper body. Like, life is over, you know. Bodybuilding, I'm running out of time here.
That's definitely got to be a mind fuck. But let's take a back step, because like, what exercise, what exactly were you doing, or was it even in the gym? Like, how did you tear your quad initially?
I was filming a YouTube video. I was doing a obstacle course, okay, and the last obstacle was running up a half pipe, and I didn't run up the half pipe like the American Ninja Warriors. I ran through the half pipe. So that sheer impact was like think of it like a brake pad. It's just my body was going up the ramp, and I was being pulled down, and it just instantly snapped. And I remember there was a lot of people there, so it was very loud. And I just remember like the oohs and ahs, and my first initial reaction when I hit the wall, I was like, thank God it wasn't my face, because that would have fucked me up, you know, for sure. And I slid down. When I hit the wall, I slid down where my one leg kind of went like Indian style, whatever the new term, not crisscross, whatever people refer to it as now. I kind of slid down the wall, and I was just like, shit, I got to get up, you know, like I feel embarrassed. And I remember standing up, and I don't know if you guys ever sprained your ankle or something like that, but I said, okay, let me gracefully put the one foot down, apply a little pressure, see how I feel. And that's when I looked down, and my foot was already down. And I said, oh, this isn't sprained ankle, this isn't normal. And I put the slightest amount of weight. And granted, at the time, I was probably 250 and in decent shape. I put the slightest amount of pressure. I fell right over. Yeah. I was just like, holy shit. So then I remember just sitting there on the asphalt, and after you finish that obstacle, they give you like a beer, shit like that. So they're all like, oh, here's some fluids. Get the fuck out of here with the beer, right?
Yeah.
So finally they came over, asked me if I could get up. Obviously I would have got up if I could get up, right? So they put me on the edge of the bed of a pickup truck, and they wanted me to slide back because they didn't want me to drive when I was like, my foot was dangling. And I'm like, no, like I can't move anymore. Just let my shit dangle and just get me out of here. So then I remember I went right to the hospital, and when you go to emergency room or anything like that, they don't do MRIs. MRIs are not life or death. So if you ever tear something, emergency room isn't going to do shit for you, right? That's the reality. And they did have an orthopedic on call, and I remember he came in and did a few tests to see if your quad is attached to where basically they put like their two fingers on where the tongue of your shoe would be, and he's like, okay, kick up. Nothing. Couldn't do shit, right? And then they did a few other tests, all of which concluded very easily that, hey, you have a ruptured quad. So I remember when he first said, he's like, I think you ruptured your quad. I tried to like become dumb. What's that? He's like, you tore it. You need surgery. Like, you're not going to be able to walk again. And I was just remember like the feeling when that happened. It was just like, wow, this is fucked. You know, like this is.
Well, let me ask you. Let's go into that a minute. Like, did you immediately think my bodybuilding career is over, or were you thinking like, how am I going to get to work tomorrow? Like what were like the hierarchical, approach to like what you're thinking was? Because some guys would just be instantly start crying like my bodybuilding career is over as I know it, whereas other guys are. Yeah, go ahead.
First thought, I was with two of my clients, Anthony Mantello and Ali Prince. She just recently actually competed in Tampa, did her pro debut.
I saw her backstage.
It's a great future. So she did really good this year, got a pro card, and then got her feet wet. So I'm excited for her. But I was with both of them, and again, they went first. They easily got up the wall. She's a gymnast. He was a little more agile and flexible, I guess. So they came down. And I remember, I am not someone that likes pain. So when people tear shit, like when the Trent twins tore their pec, everyone was sending me the video. I still have yet to see the video because I don't like looking at injuries. So when people send me an injury, easy way to block you. I don't like it. It just
I'm with you.
eats me out. So I remember my knee hurt, and I was holding it with my left hand. And again, it's crisscross as I sat down, and Anthony had come over, and I just said, I was like, look at my knee, man. Like something, I think it's like dislocated. Something's bothering me. And that's when I remember I lifted my hand, but I turned away. And he's like, yeah, it doesn't look right. And I was just like, okay, perfect. So that initial thought was just like, I hope I can get on a plane in 48 hours. Like I'm the best man here for our bachelor party. And I can't not go. Bodybuilding wasn't the first thought.
Okay.
After that, when I started to realize, I'm gonna need surgery, like there goes the gym,
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about after. Okay, I have the injury. I'm accepting it. How did that affect your self-image as both an athlete, a coach? Because obviously, a coach, you're still in your prime. You want to be able to lead by example for your troops. Walk us through that. How did that affect your self-image as Kyle the bodybuilder, Kyle the businessman, Kyle the coach?
So I was coming off probably the highlight of my career. I had three of I think Vaughn Walker, James, and Anthony all compete. Vaughn and James get their pro card. So my Instagram doubles instantly. I was getting a lot of traction and exposure. So I was riding a really big high. And then a week later, we do this obstacle course and I get hurt. And it was just a reminder, the waves of life, to say the least. So the initial thought from a coach perspective was, I'm not going to be able to train with these fuckers anymore. I can't push them, and legs is where I can crush anyone. I don't run from anyone when it comes to leg training. And now that I can't do it, that's going to change things a little bit. Coupled with, as far as me as an athlete, I already thought I sucked as a bodybuilder, so now I can't train. I don't really know what that looks like, but I wasn't super hyper-focused on that. I was more focused on the fact that I had lived in a second-story apartment at the time. I can't get up my stairs. There's no elevator. What the fuck am I going to do? I'm going to go back, try to live with my father or mother or something like that. So that's when I had to relocate. I had a friend, grateful for him, his name is Anthony as well, let me move in with him at the time. So I lived with him for 10 weeks, and I had to just change my whole life. So that was the initial thought, if I'm being honest. It wasn't really bodybuilding. It was more of, how do I function? I can't walk. I can't get off the toilet. I can't do shit.
So what made you believe that you could do this again? And then what was the desire that made you decide to do it again?
So after the tricep injury, I took that rehab much more seriously. And I already knew the steps, okay, I need to get surgery. Now, granted, I didn't want to get surgery at first. I remember the only reason I got surgery because I was in the room. I didn't go to the ER that day. I went right to the orthopedic that did the surgery, and I said, hey, I think I did this. Just confirm it for me. And they did an x-ray. There was a bone chip on my elbow where the tricep would attach. And I'm like, yeah, I fucked this up for sure. And He's like, we can try to get you in Friday. We'll get you an MRI to confirm, but like, let's schedule for Friday. And I was just like, no. He's like, what do you mean no? I said, if I need surgery, I'm good. This is a sign I'm done bodybuilding. I lost my lower body. Now I lost my upper body. I'm good. And he was just like, it's your dominant arm, Kyle. And I said, sure. He's like, you ever want to throw a ball with your kid? And in my head, I'm like, fuck. He's like, there's a chance, like, you know, you might be able to function, but he's like, you really need the surgery. The tricep is like the quadricep of the lower half, or of the upper extremity. So it controls all the extension, things of that nature. So I said, fine. 2 days later, got me in for surgery. So that rehab process was much smoother. The tricep was feeling way better than the quadricep off the rip. As far as answering your direct question, it's kind of two things here. One being that as I've been removed, I guess you remind me, for 4, almost 5 years essentially, I feel like sometimes people forget who I was. And I was an athlete and a coach. And when I coached, I train with my athletes. I push them to the brink. I'm not having them do shit that I didn't do, because I don't believe in having someone take something or do something that you didn't do yourself 10 times over and know exactly what's going to happen. I was getting somewhat removed from that, where people were just like, oh, you're just a coach. No, I'm not just a coach. Second of all, I've never been able to show up on stage my absolute best because of all the chaos that I've had. So that always bothered me deep down, because I'm not going to be that person that has a kid bringing him to the bodybuilding show to watch daddy on stage. That's probably not going to be me, I'll be honest with you. And I'm at the point where, as I mentioned earlier too, I alluded to my next chapter of life in December when I get married. There's a chance I don't compete again. You know, it'd have to be the right timing. I'm not going to have someone that's pregnant being at a show where dealing with me being grouchy and fucking moody because I'm 4 weeks out. Like, that's not an excuse. For me, everyone comes first. Coupled with the reality, I have someone like Nick I coach now. Anyone at that level, I have Tiffany. These people, they come first because this is their livelihood and their life. So if they need something, and they're not getting my full attention, I know if I was in their shoes, I would be fucking pissed. And I think, you know, we've seen that happen in the past years, where sometimes the coaches become, whether it's too popular, too busy, life changes, they can't put in that same effort. So yeah, there's going to be a change, because again, I knew this year is the most important one of Nick's, most pivotal one of his career. If he came back to Pittsburgh looking like ball sacks, he was done. I don't give a fuck what anyone says, he was done. He was not coming back to be better than that. So we need to make a statement. And when I have the clients of this nature, I've always been one that, if they want to train, for example, even if I train chest on Tuesday and they're like, hey, my chest day is tomorrow, like, can I come see you? Fuck it, sure. Right? I just move my split around, the client comes first. And that is where, when you're not selfish when it comes to bodybuilding personally, you will never succeed. You have to be selfish, and I'm more so selfless when it comes to that. So timing is the answer, Nelson, to your simple question.
Well, you kind of already touched on like the psychological part, because you talked about as far as being more than just like the coach, or you're writing down X's and O's. But what were the other like psychological hurdles here? Because I know that, you know, you get injured, it's very easy to get depressed and almost give up. What were some of the things, because you had time away from the stage and then time healing, so what was going on with that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess what I realized is, like, the most profound growth in life happens in that gap between what you expect and what you receive. And obviously, it's uncontrollable when like that happens. So psychologically, was I probably depressed for a bit of time? Absolutely. My life changed. I realized I spent a lot of fucking time in the gym. And I'd wake up, I do fasted cardio, then you have to shower, then my whole day is driven around what time I'm going to the gym. I train at the gym, maybe I'm with a client. That's like 5 hours that I now have. So I was just like, I don't know what the fuck to do. Like, I was able to always coach, and I had a full-time corporate job. I coached full-time, and I was a bodybuilder. I only have one of these now. So I'm like, I don't know what to do. You know, I have so much extra time. So let me double down and, you know, try to become a better coach, research more shit. maybe be on social media, which I still have yet to do in terms of really trying to take advantage of it. So that was more of the psychological part, was just adapting and realizing that I can either sit here and look for pity, or I could just man the fuck up and realize that, hey, no one's coming to save you. So that was like my thought process.
A lot of coaches, I feel like when they stop competing, what we see is their relationship with the sport changes a little bit, where either they don't care, they're not as involved. How is that with you?
I think I started to experience that a little bit, more so because the newer generation, of which I coach, and I have I'm grateful for having the opportunity to lead a lot of them, because there's new compounds and peptides. I don't have full experience until I get to use them myself, right? So part of me was like, all right, give me this fucking slew PP shit. Like, let me see what this is about, right? The GLPs. Let me try this. Okay, Nick, I want you using this. This is why. This is what it's going to do. I think it's going to be helpful. Before that, I wasn't a believer in. I was almost like a stubborn dog to a degree. Like, hey, this is proven to work. It's safe. Do it this way. But I'm like, you know what? Times are changing. I need to be able to adapt to stay with the times, for lack of better words. And then I also experience people just complaining. Oh, this person doesn't have to do this, because you can compare yourself so easily on social media. They see people's protocols, they see the cardio they're doing, the food they're eating, and they would just bitch. And like, I would pull up plans from 2020, 2021, literally, because the renowned issue with me as a competitor and athlete, I don't fucking sleep, man. If I show you my Oura ring, which I think I've showed you, Nelson, I average 3.5 hours of sleep a night. Average. That is fucking insane. And that's not, the ring is not wrong. I literally just don't put myself in bed early enough, and I get up too early. That isn't helpful. Sleep is the best supplement in the world. You know, I've tried to outdo that in the past, take as many drugs as I can. It doesn't work, man. Trust me. But getting back to what you were saying here, all the complaining, people saying, hey, you know, I shouldn't have to do this much cardio, or does my food have to be this low? Yes, it fucking does. Like, this was my diet. So it kind of got me to a point where I'm like, do I need to show these people how to do this shit again? And that's kind of where I'm at. Like, hey, I can still do it. I'm choosing not to do it for a reason, not because I can't do it. So that was also something that played a role.
All right, you know, because you brought up something a second ago that kind of rung true to me about how you're like, nah, I'm going to show you guys, like this is what it takes. And I resonate with that too, because all three of us as coaches, we've been coaching for a number of years where we still did it the hard way, and now there's all these, we'll call them shortcuts, or, you know, progress amplifiers. You know, I mean, they're shortcuts is what they are in a sense. You know, we've done episodes, Kyle, on retatrutide and other GLPs and whatnot. But, you know, beyond like just showing guys, like, what is it that draws you in? Like, what is it that's really like do you want to, are you doing this prep like in an old school way? Are you keeping an old school mentality that you had for like your first show? Because I know you started competing, was it about 2014? Like when things were still, we'll say, hard. Is it kind of bringing it back to that for you, and you want to relive that?
It's a combination, right? Because again, I don't want to be the old dog. I want to be someone that, hey, you can teach the old dog new tricks, and this is how. So I have a blended approach. Obviously, I know what has worked because I've been doing it X amount of years. You've watched it happen back way before you even competed, the people that you emulated to coach like or be like. I know I have a system that works, but if I can make it a little bit better, if I can make it mentally easier on people, eating disorders at an all-time high, how can I curb this a little bit? Is there something I can do? Coupled with the fact that I didn't need to use social media to look for the external validation. A lot of my competitors, they put their fucking update on Instagram before they send it to me. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, I don't understand. Like, all you care about is what people are saying. I don't give a fuck what these little girls are saying about you or what these guys are saying about you. It doesn't matter to me. What I care about is how I think you look and how you're going to stack up against someone that doesn't have Instagram and has been doing this shit for 10, 15 years, and they're going to stand next to you and they're going to mollywop you. So that's what I ultimately care about. So just doing it with the old school thought of, I actually have a passion for it, and I like to challenge myself, coupled with, hey, you can still utilize social media, the platform, put the right message out there that, yeah, this shit is hard. For some people, I can eat more food. I don't have to diet as hard. I don't need as much cardio. But for others, yes, your diet is going to suck. My diet has been fucking awfully low. It's been tough. My cardio has been higher in the past. It's still, I'm doing an hour a day. I've always done an hour a day, essentially. But the blended approach, as I had mentioned or allude to, that is the reason. I want to make sure that I can still, in my head, there's part of me that doubted I could do this anymore. Come back from those injuries. Did they really set me back? And the answer, as I think this weekend will show, is you can come back from anything if you set your mind to it. And that's what I wanted to put out there. I'm not the most genetically gifted athlete or bodybuilder. I just know no one fucking outworks me. And that is how I always have led myself when it comes to any avenue of life.
Would you say your emotional connection is a little different now than when you started, or would you say you're really just holding on to those old school roots? Like, you put your first update, your prep update, which I want to say I'm famous for doing that. I would say, hey, prep update, I'm doing the universe tomorrow, but like, and because I feel like that is an old school thing, because when I first started, you and like one other guy in your gym knew that you were a bodybuilder and that you competed because you stayed covered up, because it wasn't acceptable to just pose anywhere you want and to have a camcorder or a video following you around. So what I want to know is, like, is your emotional connection to like the process the same as it was when you first started and started your first prep back in 2014?
Life is different now, man. I wake up with a different purpose. I have different obligations. I know no matter how shitty my day is, I have my fiance, my baby dog I need to be there for. I have clients that I need to show up for. Doesn't matter how shitty my day is. And I think that's one thing that is somewhat was there in 2014, 2015, all those years, because again, I was a corporate employee, corporate America. So it kept me grounded. I can't lash out at work. I need to dress professionally. I can't have fucking erratic tattoos and random shit. I have to be very, like, well put together, put it that way. That always kept me grounded, because the reality is, outside of social media, outside of bodybuilding, no one fucking cares, right? There's real world problems where you're not going to learn these things unless you're out there experiencing actually what 99.9% of people have to deal with. The problems that we look at as bodybuilders, oh, I have to do cardio. Cool, I get to do cardio, right? Some people can't. Some people have these crazy jobs where, they're working 9 to 5, then they have kids, so the only time they can train is at 3 a.m. Are you actually going to want to be a bodybuilder? And like I go back to saying, if you remove social media, I think 95% of people don't compete. And I think even regardless of that, a side statistic, most people shouldn't compete because it fucks you up mentally. I can never look at food the same. It took me a very long time. When I finally got hurt twice is when I said, all right, fuck this food scale. Like, I know what I'm an eyeball what 200 grams is, but I really don't care right now. Like, I've gotten hurt twice. I don't know. Maybe this is a message from God. Like, I should go in a different direction. But now, still to this day, when I go out to eat, I think about the macros, so it kind of fucked me up. So I always tell people, bodybuilding is not for everyone. It just doesn't, you see the finished product, you don't see the sweat equity, the time, all that bullshit behind the scenes, all the relationships you ruin, money you spend, health issues that start to come about from poor decision making. So the emotional, to answer your question, it's different emotionally because it means something different than 10 years ago, Andrew Nelson. If you told me if you take this, Kyle, you're going to look this way, give it to me. I don't give a fuck. I'll do whatever I can do. And that was my mindset back even in 2021 when I had a lot of shit going on. I just tried to drug myself. I said, I'll figure it out. I'll take this drug to sleep. I will take this drug to grow. It doesn't work, man. It doesn't. You can't counteract it. So I speak from experience, and I'm grateful for being able to do that in a positive way.
Okay, so what would you say the bodybuilding's taught you that carries over to life outside of the gym and outside of bodybuilding?
It's a good question. taught me a great deal of things, high level, the time management, dedication, that can all be transcribed in other avenues of life that I think people should definitely take with them, right? If I wasn't a bodybuilder, if I didn't prioritize my time when it came to making sure I'm checking the boxes, I think that I'd be a different person today, professionally speaking as well. But ultimately, I guess the key takeaway was that setbacks reveal character. They don't create it. And what I mean by that is, like, at the end of the day, the fundamental truth about unchosen setbacks is that they strip away the illusion of control that we as humans think we have over our lives. And this can be devastating initially, but it's also where the real growth begins. So when life hits you with something that you didn't choose, illness, you lose your job, relationships, fucking injuries, family crisis, you're forced to confront the difference between what happens to you versus what happens through you. And that is what I can take away from bodybuilding specifically.
I think you're starting to speak to like a mindset now, and just in general. So I feel like that helps us in career and a lot of other things. How does that affect you with coaching clients? How do you apply that there?
So I think the main takeaway from that regard is a lot of the times I'll harp on intensity when it comes to training, but the reality is consistency. That's going to be intensity every single time. Most people choose intensity because it feels heroic, looks badass. But the consistent person in any endeavor of life is always going to triumph. So when it comes to clients, what I always tell them is just be fucking consistent, man. If you've had 50 good weeks a year, you probably made some great progress. And if you didn't, hire a new coach, maybe, something like that. But I think most people, they just can't stay locked in on a long-term goal, right? And that puts it up to me to say, okay, how can we mold you to be consistent in a certain behavior? And if that has to do with improving your relationship with food, having shorter term goals that are more achievable, that keep you aligned, what can I do to help you get there? Does that make sense?
Yeah. To me, it seems like a lot of people get excited about the flash. They get excited about the Instagram posts and people liking their stuff. But what do you think are the common misconceptions or just what people get wrong about the actual discipline? Like, what do people see what is it about the discipline it takes that people aren't getting?
That's another great question. I think the simplistic answer is your body keeps perfect records of your choices. So when you go to step on stage, that's the finished product, quote unquote. You know where you took the shortcuts. You know where you didn't take the shortcuts, or what deviations you may have made. So in the course of a prep, for example, the real growth and development, it happens in the middle of prep, right? Not in the beginning of prep, you look like shit, cool. As you're prepping and you get to the point where you're tired, you're grouchy, you're hungry, you got to go clean up dog shit. Those are the times, right, to where it's like it's very easy to quit. Quitting is always the viable, easy option. However, it's always the one that's going to, more often than not, leave some type of regret, the potential chance of regret. And once I commit to doing something, once I have a client try to commit to doing something, we committed because we saw and reverse engineered the process. Let's make it happen. Obviously bearing on any unforeseen circumstances.
So during this, did you draw on any of your clients' experiences or anything you had seen? And how did that have an impact on your mindset?
Honestly, I'm the lead. I'm the pack. I'm the lead wolf here, right? I'm leading the pack, so I didn't really draw on any specific client per se. The one thing I take with me, again, I get from my high-level people, someone like Nick, who is a creature of habit, to say the least. He doesn't miss anything, and because he has an end goal, he's very focused on doing everything it takes. Having that approach in my head, I know, obviously my end goal is a little different than his, but I'm not the first person to get hurt. I love sports. I watch sports all the time. I've always wondered, in a weird fucking way, how do these guys come back? Like, what is life like when you get hurt? You can't play the favorite sport you like. Because for me, sports came first. I always wanted to be a professional athlete. I want to be a baseball player, basketball player. Realized I am, 5'11", Caucasian, don't have the fucking crazy athletic ability that I had in my dreams in mind. So when I realized, okay, I can't swing the bat anymore, can't throw the ball, can't shoot threes, I'm going to move on to something else. And that's where I found solace in bodybuilding, because it was like an individual thing. I didn't need to depend on a team. I just show up in my own schedule, I put in my effort, and I get better. But I still love watching sports. In sports, we see injuries all the time. And because of social media, we see somewhat snippets of the process. So when I see devastating injuries, I don't know if you guys watch football, Chubb is a running back. He had his knee blown out fucking dramatically multiple times. He still comes back, still strong as fuck. I always wanted to wonder what that would be like to be able to persevere and come through something like that. Basketball, Derrick Rose was a MVP, phenomenal player. Tore his ACL, then tears his other ACL. Going through that process, I always wonder, what is that like? How do they come back? What are they actually going through? So I think that is the stuff I kind of focused on in the back of my mind, that, hey, they're human beings. I'm a human being. We have the same time in a day. The last I checked, I don't think anyone has found a way to have more time than the other person. If they have, God bless that soul, I want that job. However, because we can all agree here, I can do it too. If Andrew could do it, I can do it. So that was like my thought process. It wasn't a specific client. It was more of looking at idols and things like that, icons when it comes to the sports world.
Yeah. I'm remembering, I don't know if you guys remember, I don't know if speaking of football, back in like 2017 or 18 season, Rob Gronkowski was running down the field, just barely caught a pass, and what's his name from Buffalo just like put his helmet right into his knee and drove right through on the tackle, and you saw that thing go buckle backwards, and the guy was back on the field, like 8 months later. Wow. So, because that kind of resonated with me, Kyle, like when you said, there wasn't anyone in particular, but it's just collectively watching high-level athletes. If you want it hard enough, you're going to do what it takes to come back. And that kind of leads to my next, segue is, what does this next phase look like for you? What's the end goal? What is the, I know you're competing this weekend, and I assume you probably got something in the works shortly after that. Give us a breakdown for the rest of the year.
Yeah, man. So if you want my honest answer, I'll do the show this weekend. I might try to collect some data, do NJ States the following week. That's like the first show I did, essentially. So from there, I have a bachelor party, man. I'm going overseas, and I got to come back. Got to fly to North Americans. I have about 5 people there. I will never put myself in a position where I am prioritizing myself and not my athletes. So that checks that box off. And then the reality is, I have a few people at the Olympia. Can't do the amateur Olympia. And then I have nationals where there's a wedding. And I haven't gotten married ever before. I hope this is the only time ever, but I do understand that there's a lot of stress leading up to it. I don't know. I don't want to add more stress to it. So that's, in a perfect world, I get my qualification. If life allows me, maybe I can hit something next year. And if that's all she wrote, I collected some more data, proved that I could still do it. And this time, no injury is going to derail me from staying in shape, because I've always been someone that I always like to walk around that 8-week outlook, to where if I feel like it, I'll get you. I just choose not to. So that's kind of the answer.
And we all know, whenever we compete, it's kind of like your in a way your coaching buzz kind of increases even more, and not that you need one right now, because you got arguably one of the top 3 bodybuilders in the world that is getting ready to make a statement come end of the year. But what do you think this will do for you as a coach? What do you think it'll do for you as a competitor yourself, and just as a man?
Yeah. I'll work in a different order here. As a competitor, I think I might be proud of what I present for the first time ever. I always you can ask Nelson. There's been plenty of times where I'm just like, I don't think I'm going to make this show, man. Like, I just struggling, you know. And he would talk me off the ledge, right? So I'm very grateful for having people like that. I've kept it very close to home, so not many people know I'm prepping unless they happen to see my face getting a little bit more sunk in, I guess. So, being that if I like to look, fantastic. That's the best takeaway that I get from a competitor standpoint. From a coaching, again, it's just a reminder, a subtle reminder that I have walked the walk, I can walk the walk, I will walk the walk if needed. But my priority is always on making sure my clients are taken care of. So, you know, the goal wasn't to drive more clientele. I don't really care for it at that point. I kind of build a team under me. It's just more so to now I have some other business ventures that I have been working on. This will allow me to kind of be in the proper shape, have the confidence and things of that nature, I think, to kind of also take further steps there.
Anything you want to share, or it's kind of something you're keeping close to the chest right now?
Can't really share. If I could legally, I would. When it comes to that. As far as content, you know, I will have a YouTube finally moving and grooving. So on there, you know, I plan on incorporating some of my higher profile clients that people like to watch train. I'll be able to put out some tips and things of that nature where people constantly ask me, and usually I point them to different people. Now I use myself. This is what I want you to do. This is how I did it. So I think that says something as well. But no one wants to watch a fat person do movements. So that was like the primary thing in my head too. Was like, okay, how can I allow myself to? You know, I'm a businessman first when it comes to it. At the end of the day, you know, that's what it comes down to. So those are all part of the decision making process.
That makes sense. I forgot to ask you early on. Were you, because I know you've worked with Johnny Castellino in the past, were you working with Johnny right now? Were you kind of calling the shots and then just running things by him for that second set of eyes? Like, how'd that look like?
Yeah, no. So I told Johnny, hey, I want to do this. And he's like, why? And, you know, I said, you know, I like to bite off more than I can chew. And I think I can still chew here. Let's try. So, you know, that was the thought process going on. Like, hey, we'll try. And if it's not looking right, no reason to do it. And so that was always like my mindset. I wasn't so pressured to have to commit and show up. Like, if timing worked out in a way where it didn't allow me to, okay, I can't, right? I was supposed to almost have a meeting tomorrow in the city. If I'm 2 days out, I'm not taking a meeting, but that comes first. So thankfully I don't have to do that as of now. Otherwise that might pivot some things, to say the least. But to answer your question, Johnny has been helping me. So he's someone I look to, you know, he tells me what I need to do. Cool. And then I have very select few people that I'm like, what do you think? How do you think I'm looking? And if you think I'm looking shitty, like, fuck it. All right. So, you know, Alyssa, my fiance, has gotten good at seeing my looks. So she knows, like, you look like shit. You know, you need some fucking food or something. But again, with the timing, I am someone that I always want to be the client that I wish I get all the time. So if I work with Andrew, work with Nelson, work with Johnny, just tell me what I need to do. I don't ask many questions. I'll give you the feedback. Normally, I'll do more cardio than you ask. I'll take less drugs than you ask, probably. And again, that wasn't me 5-10 years ago. Me 5-10 years ago, I'm gonna do whatever the fuck I gotta do, man. I'll be an extremist. And I learned from that. I'm a little older. I don't want to compromise my health. I still have my hair, so I'm happy about that. So, yeah.
Well, so, you know, taking this full circle now, you know, you've walked us through this whole process the last 4 years. Like, what would you say to someone, like, if you got a client, let's say next year you got a high-level good client who tears a tricep or has the same catastrophic knee injury you did, you know, what's your advice to them? You're like, hey, I got the blueprint, or like, what is it? You know, how would you work them through that?
Shit's easy. It's not that hard. Yeah, the hard part is up here. Doubting yourself, having the confidence to get back into the movements. I think when you get hurt in the gym versus out of the gym, that's a little different. I, knock on wood, never got hurt in the gym, okay? Maybe things started in the gym and finished outside the gym when I finally tore, but I think that is the only missing element from my anecdotal experience. But if I get a client like that, I think, hey man, this is what you need to do. I know exactly how you're feeling because I felt it not once, but twice, and very fucking recently. and I might be older than you. Here you go, right? So pretty simple. I think that's helpful.
Absolutely. What's one thing, the most important thing I would say that let's say bodybuilding as a whole has taught you that's going to continue to stay with you the rest of your life, continue to drive you?
You need to learn to ride the midline in life, right? When we look at a heart monitor, we see the spikes, right? It's very easy to get caught up on those highlights, the wins, the pro cards, the successful client stories, the endorsement deals, the contracts. You're also going to have those lows, injuries, catastrophic events. Maybe your pet dies, your family. Shit that's not controllable. You have to realize that what you do control is your response. And when I don't let myself get too excited, I don't let myself get too depressed, I just ride the midline. It puts me in a position of power. And I think that's where a lot of people don't realize that the power lies, between the stimulus and the response. That's where the power lies. So I just constantly remind myself through all my experiences, ride the midline and you're going to be perfectly fine. If you get caught up with, you've gained a ton of traction and exposure, you're blowing up on social media, you start to get an ego. And as fast as you go up in life is as fast as you will go down. So always stay kind of grounded, appreciative, and try to be present. I think that's one thing, as I'm sure you guys can relate to when you both compete. I don't know if you'll compete ever again, Andrew Nelson, but I can argue, I'm willing to bet you wish you were a little bit more present sometimes, with appreciating how good you might have looked, how good you both did look when it came to those at times.
What were some ways that you stayed present, or some things you reminded yourself during this period? Because I think that's really good advice. What's the practical application?
Well, it certainly wasn't documenting shit on social media. Definitely wasn't that. It was more so just being happy, every day. It's an opportunity. I get to do this. The victim mentality that a lot of athletes I see have. They post things, I'm in prep, and this coach took away this food, I have to do more cardio. You don't have to prep. You're choosing to prep. So when someone says, hey, I want to prep, I come to you, Andrew, I want to prep. Okay, this is what I think you need to do, Kyle. You don't want to do it, don't fucking prep. At least with me. That's my thought process. So to stay present, it was more so of, hey, do I want to do this? If I'm going to, I'm going to do it the right way. I'm going to be as safe as possible. I will do whatever I need to do from a cardio standpoint. I'm going to try to prioritize my sleep. Could probably do a better job there, but I'm going to take my supplements. I'm going to get my lab work. I'm not going to be a dipshit, because as you get older, the body doesn't feel the same, right? I can't get away with shit. I used to not be able to warm up, go squat 500 pounds. Those days are numbered. And the reality is, again, at some point in life, I don't know when, could be after the next 2 weeks, I put the pen down to the competing chapter. I want to be in control of that. An injury is not going to set me back again. Yeah. So that's the reminder, is that life can change in the flash of an instant. Sometimes it's not at your beckoning call.
One last point, because you mentioned in most of your past shows, you just never hit the look that you had in your mind's eye. And I think as all of us as athletes, former athletes, current athletes, we're not delusional. We're a little delusional, but we're not delusional to the sense that, okay, we're going to the Olympia. Or, like, we learned very early on, and like maybe after our second show, like, I probably don't have what it takes to be Mr. Rowe. Like, that wake-up call. But you at least can dream a little bit, and you have that image in your mind's eye of what your physique can develop into when properly peaked and how it can look on stage. And I think you mentioned that you hadn't hit that yet. How are you close to that now? Like, are you feeling like I'm right there now?
I think this is the best version of myself yet. The only thing that can make it better is me putting in another 12 months to have more tissue on my glutes. I have a white ass, okay? Literally and figuratively. Because of the injury, I know I wasn't able to squat like I used to, which gave me a little bit more meat back there. But conditioning-wise, I think this is the leanest I've ever been. If I want to be a better bodybuilder, the answer for me I need to cut my clients in half. I need to focus on being a good bodybuilder, checking the boxes. I'm not willing to do that. So when I know that and what I'm presenting, I think it's a good fucking blend for what I was able to accomplish. So I'm kind of proud of that and happy with it. Though that could change in a couple of days if I let myself spiral.
It's funny you mention that too. Like if you cut your client load in half, like you could absolutely take this thing where you think, the outer space is the limit, right? And it's funny because I tell a lot of my current clients that are starting to develop, good coaching acumen, and they're starting to develop client loads. My thing is like, hey, put the brakes a little bit. Like don't bite off more than you can chew, because I think we all remember a point in our coaching careers where we crossed over that line of like, oh, I'm not the most important bodybuilder on my roster anymore, and so my attention needs to be dictated a little differently. Do you guys agree with that? That there's like a point, and if you could have just like held on a little longer and maybe said no to a few more people, maybe it would have reached a certain point a little bit earlier.
I feel like I remember specifically where it was. It's like there's like a threshold of clients, and all of a sudden you're answering texts, and that your a meal 3 alarm went off 40 minutes ago, and you're backed up, and it's very hard to prioritize yourself and make sure you're not answering, text during training and doing all this stuff to be the best coach you can be while also prioritizing your own training. So if you want to be the best coach in the world, you're not going to be the best bodybuilder in the world, and vice versa.
Right. Yeah. And what about you, Andrew?
I'm sorry?
When was your moment of epiphany that you
my moment was 2017. I remember, like, I was in prep for the Atlantic States, and then I was doing, I can't remember what I did after that. Oh, you know what? I realized I needed to shut that prep down because my client load was just so high. And speaking to John Meadows, he was like, hey, you're checking in a little later than you were previous years, and I noticed that because I would get up and I'd do my check-in pictures, but then I'd go and get my responses back to my early check-in clients, because like you keep saying, Kyle, and I agree 100%, the clients come first, because that's what puts bread on your table, that's what puts the roof over your head, and at some point it becomes more than just about you. It becomes about building this team, building this thing that you're going to leave as a legacy. And it kind of brings actually to my last point. What do you want your legacy to be?
It's a great question. I think that's somewhat ever changing, because had you asked me 10 years ago, the answer would be different. 5 years ago, it would be different. I think I'm always forever chasing something that I don't quite know exactly what it is. I can tell you I want my legacy to be one where people view me as a valuable tool that they were able to take information from and input it into their life, not just in the gym. My big thing is the gym and bodybuilding is awesome. What's cooler is your family, how you set yourself up for financial success, how composed you are mentally. Those things are more bulletproof and matter, because again, the athlete in all of us is a very small window if we're lucky enough to get to an older age. In the grand scheme of things, you have 10, 15 years competing. Those people that do 20, I don't really want to switch my life with them, to say the least, generally speaking. Maybe a few, but very, very rarely. So I just want my legacy to be one that I was able to guide the younger generation to be healthier, make the right decisions, not do fucking dumb shit like I did. Stay healthy. That's the main thing.
That makes a lot of sense. And I just want to wish you the best of luck this weekend. I think, just that one video, you look amazing. I think you are in your best condition ever. And I also just want to thank Nelson for joining us today. Guys, please like, subscribe, share with your friends, leave comments, and leave us questions for the next episode. We really enjoy that. It gives us ideas for the next topics. Anything else today, guys?
No, thank you for having me.
Love having you. With that, boys, we are Unwracked. Thanks for listening, guys.